here we are at the Brockton Library. Everyone has a voice for February, and today we are going to welcome Lazire Wiley, who's representing the New Heights Charter School, and she will be our student featured poet today. But before we do that, we have some questions for her. So the first question would be, when did you first realize you wanted to be a writer?
I didn't really realize I wanted to be a writer. I've kind of jumped into it. Like in second grade, I didn't really have a love for writing or like reading or anything. But like my mom, she got me tutored and I kind of got pushed into it. And then having ADHD, I kind of picked it up as like one of my hobbies. So I do it time to time for like fun or maybe like just because I'm bored.
Okay. And what does your family think of your writing?
I mostly share it to my friends, but like my mom, when I read her my poems, she's like, she doesn't know that, like, she doesn't know that the things that I write about, that I feel that way or that I'm going through some things, and like she kind of asks me, like, what am I going through, or like, why do I feel this way, to like kind of talk. I'm sorry, I'm nervous.
You're fine.
Or she like, it's not like she worries, it's like, she's like, I never knew you could be this deep of a writer and go this deep and far into a writing, because I never knew, she's never seen somebody write like that.
Okay. Now, has your idea of poetry changed since you began writing poems?
I would say I've always had a different perspective on poetry because I've been reading poems since I was in third grade. And from then, like when I read my first poem, I read a book, it was a book of poems, I specifically remember. It was like a children's book. And it was like, I didn't know what it was, and I asked my teacher and she was explaining it to me. And then I was like, oh, I like this type of reading. And from there, I got to know it more.
Okay. And what are the most surprising emotions you have learned from writing your poetry?
To be honest, who hurt me? Because it's like that, or like, I'm glad that it's like who hurt me, and then I'm glad that I got clarity in all my situations, and that I was able to find peace in the struggles that I went through.
Okay. So for the last question is, what would you like an interviewer like me to ask you? What's the one question?
I would want an interviewer to ask maybe like questions that are more personalized, like towards me and not about just the subject on what we're discussing.
So the question like, when you feel these emotions, how does it affect you?
Like, yeah.
There you go. There's the question.
I've learned that feeling emotions it's not a process that you need to block out. It's a process that you need to let happen, because through your emotions and through what you've been through, you can find a path of clarity, and you can find ways to like kind of help yourself and your mentality.
Okay, so thank you very much. And we look forward to hearing your words later this afternoon. Today we welcome our feature, Hannah Baptiste, who was our Youth Poet Laureate from 2022 to 2024. And she's going to be our feature poet today. Welcome, Hannah. And we have some questions. Hopefully we'll get a little insight in how Hannah forms her poetry. So question 1, what early experience taught you that language had power?
I would say the first experience that really taught me that language had power was in 7th grade when my English teacher assigned us an assignment where we had to write our own poems. And then at the end of the class, she gave us the opportunity to perform our poems in front of the class, and we could do as many as we want. Originally, I didn't think I was going to perform any poems, but I decided, you know what, I'll just read at least one of them. And then after I read it, I realized how empowered it made me feel to be able to share my voice with everyone else and to see how everyone was influenced by the words that I said. And I ended up performing more poems. So that was the day that language empowered me and those around me and really taught me that it can influence everyone around you.
Awesome. So the second question would be, how long did it take you to start sharing your poetry after that?
After that experience, I didn't share my poetry to anyone until I think it was freshman year of high school. One of the English teachers in the school was hosting a poetry slam after school. I think it was for extra credit, I don't remember, but that was probably the next time I started sharing my poetry. I didn't have a lot of opportunities to share my poetry, so once I found opportunities like here at the Brockton Library, I decided to start sharing my poetry, but it is kind of hard to do, to open yourself up to people in that way.
And for the third question, how have you evolved as a writer over the years?
I would say the biggest way I've evolved as a writer over the years is prioritizing progress over perfection, because I, especially when I first started my writing journey, I was so focused on making my writing perfect, down to analyzing every single word. It would get to the point where I just wouldn't share anything or wouldn't write anything. So nowadays, I really prioritize just writing and getting my emotions out there, because I feel like sharing your voice is more important than making it perfect, because with writing, there's never really a point where it's perfect. You just kind of have to decide when it's good enough.
Wonderful. How about telling us some of the influences that inspire you as an individual?
I would say the influences that inspire me as an individual would be the people in my life, primarily my older siblings, because we basically go through the same struggles, but we really had to learn how to pick ourselves up and figure out how to find our place in this world, especially because we don't have a lot of the resources that other people have. But another influence in my life, I would say, just like my favorite authors and my favorite poets, because they're just really inspiring individuals. Some of my favorite authors, well, my main favorite author is Angie Thomas, author of The Hate U Give, On the Come Up, and Concrete Rose. And then my favorite poets include, there's a lot of them, I would say Phil Kay, Sarah Kay, Rudy Francisco, just to name a few. Just seeing how they are able to inspire people with the words that they say, and how their work often extends beyond their poetry, and how they like to give back to their community.
So here's a question. So what is the one question you wish an interviewer would ask you?
Obviously, most of the questions I get asked are about my writing process, so I think it would be more interesting to have some questions that are more focused on you as a person and maybe how that influences your writing itself rather than outside forces.
All right. So we look forward to hearing your words today. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for listening.
And thank you. Welcome to Brockton Library. And everyone has a voice. This is our February edition. And we have a couple of poets on the open mic. We have our student feature, Lazar Wiley, and our feature will be Hannah Baptiste. And I'm going to start the open mic. I know it's January, so I picked a couple of hopefully life-affirming poems. And this first one is called Critical Recognition. I am the cat stretching, the bear emerging from hibernation, the snake shedding its skin slowly, deliberately. I am the changing seasons, sleepy winter ushering the warm tears of spring, summer solstice elongating, sun radiant in its illumination of earth. The sun and moon share the sky, my phases of reflecting light. I am the salmon swimming back to origin, the bird homing to womb of nest, migrating, circling back to familiarity past the danger. The emperor penguin exhausted, forever in its perilous passage, generations connected before and after. The constant ripple of a single drop of water, earth, water, air, releases its memories. I call out to you, critical recognition. I am the baby stirring, child awakening, adolescent developing, adult enlightened, the mature that exists, has existed, and will exist. I am a very small drop in the liquid universe. I am the embryo of a new day. And the second one is called The Traveler. And this was written on one of my trips to Greece, and I was on the boat going to my father's, when my father was born, and I wrote this, this poem. And as I said, it's called The Traveler. We ask ourselves, and we doubt ourselves. We confide in ourselves. What lies deeply rooted into the subconscious of layers of the past and present do we dare not believe in our dreams and the future that is in us? We search for our own identity with the knowledge that the universe has shaped us through the basic progression that has been instilled into our existence. Although we have no idea how the world has fostered and how much we can accomplish without our understanding and awareness. Believe in the power of the mind and the ability to make a difference. Impart the best ways for people to understand the difference between being independent of yourself and how much your actions affect others. The best possible outcome is that hearts and souls will always remain with you. Tomorrow will come when you are ready for the journey. May you be informed with the capability to make your own choices, blessed and fulfilled in the name of your own happiness. You are the best thing in life to ever exist, and have your life invested into you. The present bestowed on you is not a time for you to get back into your own life, but it is a moment. First step is to make the most sense, and then an assessment about how much you need to do, what you're willing to accept. Follow your path to the steadiness of your pulse, and you will find meaning. Inspiration is the way to see yourself as you grow stronger. For now. And we would like to welcome Mario Malvert for the open mic.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm going to read two poems. The first one is called Whim of Soul. Whim of soul, drowning my heart, sea of aborted dreams, of lamenting songs in the dead of nights. I feel the sting of dried roses. I hear the sneer of obnoxious frogs. I walk on tree branches, kicking the waves of autumn leaves. I see my face fidgeting in the mirror of the lake. Shade of green algae lost in the shadow of time. I let my eyes repose on the muddy clouds of the wet. Let me sing to the trees. Let me shout to the moon, like the oracles from the netherworld. Let me catch the fire of the figurines of the ancient ark. Now it's time to rob the wind of its songs, to steal from the sky the glitter of its stars, to nick the pearls from the oceans. The second poem is called Your Sad Face. A slice of moon under my nails to set your iris in fire. The teardrop at the tip of my fingers sparkles in silver strands. I buy you a bagpipe to sing your parts. I set up a pillory to crucify your torment. If your blues has a story to tell, let it hurry. My anticipation burst into 1,000 fragments. Perhaps we need to rebuild life, from city to city, from island to island, to weekend boredom, to fill the void, to unravel the silence.
Thank you very much, Mario. And for our second person on the open mic, please welcome Pauline Anderson.
Hi. I'm going to read two. One was written probably almost 4 years ago. The other one was written last year. So here we go. First one is titled, Please Note. Sitting on a bench enjoying a beautiful fall afternoon, I saw what seemed to be a very hangry man approaching. As he approached this lady next to me and about to speak, she moved closer to him and said, "Please note," as she put up her hand. "Please note, I roll with my thunder, not yours. I look through my eyes, not yours. I feel my pain, including those you inflicted on me. You cannot feel my pain. I carried my children, not you. I fed my children, not you. I carried myself, not you. Me. I made me. The new me. Yes. I could have had 3 children instead of 5 due to that, incident or what happened on the train tracks on 42nd Street. 5 years my children helped to carry me through the physical pain you caused. Now, I roll with my thunder, not yours. So please note, my heart belongs to my children, not you. And the second one is titled Relax. Take a sip from my spoon, which comes from my cup, which I am drinking. The soup from my pot, which was cooked on my stove, which was molded, sliced, chopped by my hands. In it, the food like the colors of the rainbow, all pure and natural. The food of peace, balance, faith, hope, love. The food that will put a smile on your face every time. Whenever you fail. The food that would help to keep you warm when the cold get bitter. The food that will catch you when you are falling. Come, sit. Take a sip from my spoon. Have faith. You are safe.
We're going to jump right into our features. So our first feature is our student feature representing the New Heights Charter School.
My name is Lazaya. I don't have a title for it. I'm gonna be reading a poem that I wrote. The sky unravels into black velvet edges, fraying where the stars used to be. I stand quiet in the hum of absence, my breath a fragile thread, pulling me deeper into a cavern of myself. There is no road here, only the uneven pull of instinct. The scrape of the raw earth underfoot, the air taste of iron, thick with what was lost and what lingers. Still, I reach forward, fingers brushing against the cold stone, slick moss, jagged edges of something that once was whole. Each touch reminds me of the fracture, the long splintering days where light seemed too far, too cruel to chase. The darkness did not frighten me. It's not an enemy, but an echo, a mirror titled just enough to show the parts I avoid. The soft rustle of leaf whispers, not of danger, but of memory, a storm that drowned in the garden of silence after the door closed for the last time. I pause. The air around me changes. It's warmer now. A faint vibration under the surface, like a heartbeat, somewhere distant. It's a rhythm, calling. The scent of the earth sharpens, damp soil mingled with decay, but beneath it, something green and tender stirs. I kneel, palms pressing into the ground, and feel the pulse of life buried just below. Waiting to breathe, a free single sound rises from the quiet. The drip of water finding its stone, its steady rhythm, measured and patient, carving away what time cannot keep. I follow through the ache of what I carried too long. The weight of the shadow presses against me, and I press back, not to fight, but to shape myself within, to grow towards the edges where the dark gives away to dawn. I close my eyes, and I feel the darkness stretch around me, vast as the sky, soft as the tide. It cradles me, not as a place of loss, but as a soil, a womb rich with the promise of becoming. The flame within me flickers. It's a small thread of gold in a sea of but steady. Its warmth spreads through my chest, melting through the frost. Unspoken fears filling the hollow spaces with something I do not know, but the air shifts again, a breeze curling like a whisper against my neck. It smells of jasmine, sweet and sharp, a reminder that beauty survives even in the shadow. I rise my feet, steady against that trembling ground. Darkness no longer clings, but holds me gently like a promise kept above. The faintest glimmer of light begins to bloom. I do not turn away. This is where I have found myself, not in the light, not in the dark, but in the space between, where the silence breathes and where the soul spreads, petal by petal. Here I bloom. Another one. Fear is a weight, heavy and cold. It settles in my chest and wraps itself around your heart. It whispers in danger, of failure, of the unknown. It's dawn when you want it. Fear is a sharp breath you take when the door creaks open in the dark. It comes uninvited through the cracks. It walks through the memories, through where the memories were buried, through a moment to catch you off guard. Fear is the silence before an answer, the stillness in your body pretending to be invisible. It clings to the edges of thought. Fear watches you. It knows when you are weak, when you're at your lowest, when you're struggling just to get a sentence out. But fear is not an enemy. It's a messenger, a signal, a reminder that you're still alive, that there's something still at stake. Fear is a weight, but not that you can live, not at all, not all at once, but piece by piece. With each step forward, it loses its hold. It's not gone, not entirely. It waits for another moment, another question, another leap. But you're stronger.
So I'm going to call you Miss Wiley because you have just shown the maturity and the courage to lay your emotions out. And I think it was very brave of you to come up and share your words with us. So we appreciate it. So we're going to have our feature, Miss Hannah Baptiste, who was our 2022-2024 Youth Poet Laureate, and we're excited to have her back at the Brockton Public Library. Please welcome Hannah Baptiste.
Okay, before I start my set, I just want to say I loved your poetry, and seeing how emotional you got over your poetry and just hearing the words itself really just remind me why I love to write. So I just wanted to commend you for that. Your writing is so good and you're such a great person, because sharing your writing, I think we all know, it's really hard. I have so many poems I won't perform for that same reason. But yeah, so, okay, so I'm going to do 4 poems today. Some of them are old. One of them is completely new. I literally finished it at like 1 o'clock in the morning. So that'll come later. So my first one is titled College, the Apocalypse. I'm starting with this poem because I'm a junior in college now. It's gone by so fast. I still feel like a freshman, to be honest. And so I'm going to my spring semester of my junior year, and I just feel myself changing every single day, and trying to find my place in this world is really hard. So I just felt inspired to read this poem today since I'm going back to school on Tuesday. September 2nd, 2022, a crisp summer day before the temperature drop that's to come. I move into my first college dorm. The posture of my spine I worked so hard to straighten from years of balancing new worlds on my head develops scoliosis from the impact of my new life that's to come. College, an apocalypse, a world of events so destructive that the life you knew has to come to terms with ceasing to exist. A time where if you somehow survive the pain of healing the cracks in your support beams, you must be prepared for the impact of new lessons that must be learned. Lately, I feel like I'm being reborn, my bones shifting back into cartilage, like when I first entered this planet, as a baby that left the safeness of the womb to discover this new world and learn how to not end up in a premature tomb. I have come to discover that I will be reborn at every new phase of life. I feel worse than I did in middle school, struggling to adjust to my evolving womanhood as my body and my mind sank into the ground and sprouted a garden of flowers I did not know how to care for, my only model of care being acres of land in the distance that I don't want to end up as. I struggle to find a treatment plan that gives me the results I want and need. I'm learning this world all over again like I did the moment I realized I was alive, except this time I must turn cartilage to bone myself and figure out how to thrive. No one is holding my limp neck to make sure it doesn't snap. Only I can do that, because it's up to me to figure out what nutrients will foster the growth of an aching planet. My world is only in my hands, and that fear in mishandling could create gravestones of my own potential if I'm not careful. During this apocalypse, I feel the weight of the lost languages from the past versions of myself, trying to fit who I was into who I am becoming. But I've learned that language is an evolving thing. Some go extinct and others are created. A crossbreed between two existing things, developed out of a need for the changing atmosphere. But I'm learning to be okay with not knowing where I am headed, and just knowing that this apocalypse is not my end, it's my new beginning, and one day I will find my balance again. My next poem is titled Good Hair, because in the Black community they have a lot of different expectations for what your hair should look like, what texture is better, what's appropriate to go out in, certain styles being seen as unkempt. This poem took me a long time to finish. I finally finished it last year and I have not read it since, so we're going to read it today. My natural hair was a hard pill to swallow, needing to be crushed at one point, so I was able to swallow the contents and know that one day, this habit of taking my true self in increments could not last forever. I have struggled to love my natural hair for as long as the wind has been changing directions, flipping the script we didn't write, the compass that guides us to where to proceed in our journey, being directed by those who have stolen the narrative. From the Tignon laws of the past to racial discrimination creating standards and being too scared to show up to a job interview for natural hair, some of the many examples parading the street of the fear of being denied for who you are, coiling around you like the springs on your head, sentencing us to the imprisonment of watching others derive joy from the very crimes we were sentenced for, adding charges for self-hatred that remain despite attempts to change the law we govern our confidence by, the thorny phrase, good hair, piercing into our scalps, attempting to grow roses on the stems, not realizing our hair has reached a state of post-mortem after our attempts to create from it a life that others will recognize as worthy of air. Good hair, a phrase, a wound, an injury that never fully heals, but just scabs over. A pain that you only understand when you grow up with the opposite, with short coils on your head that others curl their lips in disgust when they see. I have become bilingual in the languages that made my ears bleed, so I can translate the hatred I consume on the daily, the language that tells me you are not as beautiful as them. You should straighten your hair. Your hair isn't done. The languages that use the word nappy as a sin and the word straight as one of Jesus' blessings. I want to apologize to my curls and coils for the times I thought I had to straighten them to avoid their lively spirit causing mayhem. This hatred towards my curls has made me drown in the water I tried to avoid, so my hair doesn't revert me back to an unruly state. I have learned to treat the remarks from my peers as a virus we wear masks to avoid, because once an illness is inside of you, it may be harder to beat a second time. Hating yourself is not an illness you become immune to after catching it once. Us Black people are prone to this illness, and there is a long road to recovery once the cells multiply. But I am beginning to reclaim what good hair is. I am reclaiming the lost pieces of myself, lost in the structure fire of the older generation who didn't have the support beams to love themselves. I will no longer face the substance abuse of the hatred of my Black features that society continues to produce. I am no longer changing my shape to please others. My natural hair may be a pill too difficult for some to consume, but they'll have to adjust to its natural beauty like I have. From liquid medication to crushed pills, to swallowing whole with water, to swallowing it dry, I am no longer scared or in denial of what's best for me. I will continue to work towards loving my natural hair in all its mental states and physical forms, and continue to teach myself that my love towards my natural hair and Black features cannot be conditional. Okay, so this next poem is completely new. As we know, last year we had a historic bid for presidency with a Black woman making it to the last two. And it was my first election, so I was pretty proud, but I myself was not happy with the results. And so I wrote this poem that same day because I was inspired by it, and I decided this week to actually finish it. So it's just titled Election Day. I am familiar with the stories of my people, especially an old tale reworked through today's diction and yesterday's tropes. A Black woman tries to enter white areas surrounded by walls with barbed wires of suppression and guards of oppression, with serpents hiding in the nature we once connected with, ready to attack intruders that threaten the future of our nation. Today the tale begins as this. Kamala Harris makes historic bid for presidency and loses because people didn't believe a Black woman was worthy of leading the country her people built. Too many of us have heard similar stories since childhood, stories where the fights lost are not representative of our efforts and have been forced to hold back tears since the pain has cycled through your body so many times, you become numb to it. The tears I want to cry today will fill a pitcher my descendants cannot drink from. These tears would leave every pore on my body, tears from battles won, will soon forget to cycle the earth. As the dams we built to block prejudice break down, and water floods through the beautiful world we built. The tears I want to cry today are for the peace of mind I have lost on the way here. The tears I want to cry today are for the Black women who believe they can no longer dream, those who forgot that the world sees us through lazy eyes and refuse to wear glasses to see past the blurriness of their ideals. We should be allowed to hope that the world may see us as we see ourselves, but instead, we weep. For the pain in our lungs that persists with every breath, and for the dreams that have met their death, we weep. For the war we cannot sign a treaty for, even though we can't take the violence anymore, we weep. For our children who have to continue fighting the battles of oppression and stereotypes that others keep forging, we weep for the progress we thought we had and for the successful growth of the budding flowers of understanding we hope will be given in bouquets to all, and we weep for our very existence that is submerged in the heat of a million suns, necessary for everyone's existence, but toxic to the touch. But our weeping will not be in vain, because we will overcome this asteroid just like those before us. For the Black women who believed they had the power to be the first and have learned that the world will never want to quench their thirst, we come together to lift ourselves up, because it's the only way above the walls with barbed wires that awaits us when we try to cross the border for a better life. Kamala Harris may have been the first to try, but she will not be the last, because the vines of a good story are ones that others will pluck the fruit of inspiration from and use it to continue telling a story for as long as it needs to be cycled through the earth until its meaning is understood by all who inhabit it. Thank you. On that note, I'm going to end off my set today with a poem about dreaming. It is titled, "A Love Letter to Those Who Dare to Dream at Any Age." To those who dare to dream at any age, what age were you when you realized dreaming didn't only happen when your head hit the pillow and catapulted you to other worlds? When you realized that your imagination could fuel reality, and the first time you realized that dreaming can hurt you like a toxic friendship, but even then, you still lifted yourself to other worlds? For those who dare to dream at any age, dreaming is no easy feat. It is a wind tunnel that slices through your barriers meant to protect you from the weather ahead as you walk through, but you keep going, despite the wind blowing you back, in hopes you can reach your destination. To those who dare to dream at any age, I love how you start a riot on the streets of those who doubted you, becoming an arsonist, targeting the houses that creak too loudly when you are at peace with yourself and moving forward. Those who dare to dream fill their head with every bit of the lives their parents didn't live, because it is the only way they'll make it out. To those who dare to dream, I love you for swinging so high on the swings and jumping off, wanting to taste how it felt to be reckless with your life, because you knew it wasn't an option for you. For those who dare to dream, dreaming is the only way to believe your life will melt in the heat of the burnt edges of the maps you never got to explore. Those who only know the streets they grew up on dream of having the ability to see growth other than their height marks on the wall of their childhood home their parents can't let go of. Those brave enough to act on their dreams went to bed at peace and woke up with fists to fight the nightmares that follow them to the surface. They do not wear veils to cover their sights, their frights. They wish for the world to see their battles so they know it doesn't take a God to do the impossible. To those who learned too early that acting on dreams were the only way they'd make it out of the night terrors they fought every day, I hope you found some peace and have a balance between escaping and living, because the sun and the moon have different times to shine. To those who dare to dream at any age, holding dreams in the calluses of your hand is worth it, because it's better to live knowing you tried than to wonder what would have happened. The plans for you were taken from black holes, and exceed the depths of this planet. Always remember that. Thank you.
And thank you very much, Hannah. Before we conclude, I want to tell you about a special event that's coming up here at the Brockton Library, and it's called Respecting Our Past, Creating Our Future, Celebrating Black History Month. And we have a wonderful lineup. The host will be Brockton historian Willie Wilson Jr. Filmmaker Xavier Saponte will share his film about Black History Month. The Rose Music Conservatory, under the direction of Gregory Fernandez, will be performing. Brockton Poet Laureate Philip Osoris. Keynote speaker, poet, author, educator Reggie Gibson. A special presentation by the Brockton High School Art Department, where a student created a work of art just for Black History Month. And finishing up will be poet Hannah Baptiste. So that's going to be February 1st down in the Linkus Auditorium, beginning at 2 o'clock. So I would like to thank our open mic performers, Mario Malvant and Pauline Anderson. Our features, our student feature, Miss L. Wiley, for her courage and her words. And our feature poet, Hannah Baptiste. We will be back here February 15th. And our features will be Jean-Denis Wachine and Grace Alexandra Jean will be our features. So hope to see you then. Thank you very much.